Hi, I'm Chris Roselli.
And I'm Al Dowling. Welcome to Western Window, the show made for you by students at Western Washington University.
This time on Western Window, we'll get a chance to chat with Western alum and former Secretary of State, Ralph Munro. And we'll watch as WWU arborists take care of some of the largest treasures on campus.
And we'll hear more about a new collaboration between Whatcom Community College and WWU. So stay with us as we explore our world through Western Window.
Western alum Ralph Munro, who was Washington's Secretary of State for 20 years, came to Western to receive an honorary doctorate. And while he was here, he had a chance to reminisce and recall his time at Western and his life in state politics.
Welcome to Western Leadership Profiles, a special program from Western Washington University. My name is Floyd McKay. I'm a retired professor of journalism and a longtime journalist in the Pacific Northwest. It's my great pleasure to introduce my guest for this installment in a series of interviews. Ralph Munro was Washington's Secretary of State for 20 years, more than anyone else in state history. He graduated from Western in 1966 and has been one of the university's strongest supporters his entire life. On March 19th, he was awarded an honorary doctorate in appreciation of a lifetime of service to his state and country, service that continues a decade after his retirement from public office. Well, welcome back to the campus, Ralph. You grew up, I understand, right across the street.
It's great to be here. I actually grew up on Bainbridge, but when I lived here on campus, I lived in Highland Hall, and then I lived down on Garden Street and had a terrific time. Yeah,
you graduated in '66, and so you were here during the wild and woolly '60s, weren't you?
Yeah, it was really interesting times. I came to Western and in '61 and actually got booted out the first year for drinking beer and raising hell. And then I worked at the Seattle World's Fair, and then I came back to Western and eventually ran for the student legislature and was student body president. And that was a fascinating time because during my term as student body president, Mario Savio, a student leader at Berkeley, California, took over the campus, and we saw every rule in the book change just within a few days and a few weeks. And up until that point, what they call in loco parentis was the legal term that when you were on the campus, the campus was your parent. And that all went out the window. When I arrived here, girls had to be back in the dorm at 10:45 and midnight on the weekends and all those rules. That's all changed.
You've been on campus off and on a whole lot during that period. You've seen it change.
I think it's changed dramatically. I mean, my mother went here in the 1930s with small classes. The only building was Old Main and a couple houses they'd reconverted into buildings. But boy, if you look at the difference today with all the different subjects that, the arts and the sciences, and you see what we're doing with high tech. And you look at our numbers of kids getting into medical school and so on. I mean, this university has a whole different standing. I was fortunate enough to be elected student body president, student legislature, and student body president. And I'm a great believer in student government because we learn a lot of lessons in that arena.
Especially in the 60s.
Yeah, exactly. And today I see people that have never been in public office, and they jump in to run for president or Congress or governor or something, and they make stupid mistakes. And I think, that's something we learned in college. And it's very interesting. One member of that student council became Speaker of the House at Olympia. Another one became Assistant Attorney General. Another one became the State Code Reviser. And myself, I became Secretary of State. It was just incredible to see these people I still see them today, still involved. And we were all in the student council together. You learn lessons. And then I was involved in local Republican politics, worked to elect. Whatcom County's always been swing, depending upon how it's redistricted. Swing county, so there was always some victories and some losses. Those days it was all patronage, and so I worked in Olympia as a supply clerk.
Now, I understand you really started at the bottom
I
in the Capitol. You
Bottom
were literally
of the building and then the bottom of the rungs. And worked as a supply clerk and met everybody, and worked for Dan Evans for a long time.
Yeah.
Worked for Dan Evans for 7 or 8 years, and then and that was really tumultuous times. I mean, cities were threatened to be burned, and Dr. King was killed, Bobby Kennedy was assassinated. The country was in absolute turmoil, and so we were out in the street every night trying to keep things under control. And the prisons were, there was all kinds. We always hear about the Black Civil Rights Movement. We forget that there were so many other groups that were doing the same thing. All
environmentalism,
environmental
feminism.
programs, the handicapped and the developmentally disabled people were coming into their own. And the Vietnam War and bombing Cambodia and kids on the streets. And so, I mean, people ask me, why do you look so old? And I tell them it all happened when I was in my 20s, because it was tough duty. I mean, it was really hard. The Seattle Fire Department didn't have one black firefighter. Seattle Police Department had just a few blacks on. Why are people angry? Of course they're angry. Virgil Clarkson and a couple others were the first blacks who worked in state government, came in totally. I think Virgil told me one day, he's still now he's the mayor of Lacey. He's an old man. He told me, he said he counted tried to find every black he could in state government. Out of thousands of employees, there were 16. So people were, of course, angry, and we tried to change that, and we worked very hard to change that. As Dan Evans said in a very famous speech, I'd rather cross the political aisle than cross the people. And we were all trained in that. That was part of our lessons. And secondly, you better learn that your staunch enemy at 3 o'clock might be your best friend at 3:15. So don't burn bridges. Get along with people.
It's a very different national climate these days, so isn't it? I noted that in December you began distributing Dump Trump bumper stickers. Do you still have yours on your car?
I sure do, and I've not had any trouble giving them away, I'll tell you. I think Donald Trump is one of those kind of guys who has never been involved in politics, just like I mentioned earlier, and he'll jump in and he'll make tremendous mistakes. He's already made them in the campaign, but he is also hooked onto he's hooked onto this national unrest that's going on. It kind of reminds me about when George Wallace came out of the South and found out there was a lot of racism in Indiana and Illinois and in Ohio and so forth.
What's the way ahead for people like yourself who want to be Republicans but don't want to be Trump?
Well, I think to pick and choose candidates you can work for and feel comfortable with. We have a lot, actually quite a number now, of moderate Republicans and moderate Democrats in the legislature, and they're working together. And we're seeing a lot of very progressive stuff pass. The caucuses are holding together, and they've just decided we're all in this room together, and we've got very close margins between the House and the Senate. So I think the Democratic caucus and the Republican caucus have decided to work together, but they recognize there's some votes they got to cross the aisle and they've got to pick up support for. We saw that the other night in the budget votes. When the Democrats came across and voted for some of the Republican amendments and vice versa. It's not perfect, but it's much better than most states, much better. I kind of believe that America is kind of like a sailboat, and every now and then you reach the opposite shore and you head into the wind and come about, and for a while you flop around, then you take off again. And I think we might be going through one of those stages right now where we're trying to set our course. And I'm not sure, I'm no predictor of these things. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I do know that there is a huge number of people in the middle, not on the extreme left or not on the extreme right, that want a solid, secure, good America. And I have a lot of faith in those people to sort it out.
Thank you very much. And we're blessed to have as our guest Ralph Munro, Secretary of State for 20 years and a lifetime friend of Western Washington.
Thank you. Thank you.
WWU is privileged to be the home of dozens of spectacular varieties of trees The full census runs to more than 70 species, and it's a great place to see some of the widest varieties of trees in one location on our region. But a campus with so many different trees requires a lot of TLC and a dedication to planting with the future in mind.
Whenever there's a renovation that involves or impacts the outside of the building, we review the process ahead of time to know what we're going to have to do to salvage anything in the landscape that's going to be impacted. Once we've gotten a tree going and you've invested 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years into the growth of that tree for various reasons, and we don't want to trash the tree. We pay a lot of money to get the trees in the first place, and so we like to, just in the interest of saving the plant material we have, mature plant material, it's nice to be able to move it somewhere else and install it and keep the tree going, keep it part of our campus plantings. We were using that period during May of last year to move as much of the plant material as we could. The trees had already leafed out, the weather was warm, and so for a lot of reasons it wasn't the right time, but we had no other opportunity or chance to do it, so we had to do it then. The gardener in that area, Tyler Halliday, had developed a system of digging the root balls up and then wrapping the root balls in saran wrap. It helps hold the root ball together when you're moving it so that you don't lose too much soil around the roots. Of course, we take the saran wrap off once we plant it. We use a big telelifter, which is like a forklift with a big boom, to lift the trees and move them and put into place. We moved probably about 10 or 12 trees out of that area. Well, the trees in this particular part of campus are the oldest trees on campus. Most of the trees in this area are over 100 years old, and some of the early pictures of Western's campus show a lot of these trees as young trees in the early 1900s. So we can date a lot of the trees by looking at those old photographs and know that, oh, there's that elm tree when it was a young whippersnapper, or those maples over there when they were young. This is a redbud tree, and this is one of the trees that was around Carver that we moved. And there's another one just yonder over there that's also a redbud tree. This is a green leaf variety, that's a red leaf variety, which you can't see that yet. And these kind of had a tough time during the transplant process last summer. They held on, and I think they're going to be okay, and they're going to leaf out. So these were 2 success stories of the ones we moved. 5 generations of my family have gone to school here, starting with my great-grandfather in 1917. So when I look at these trees and I think about the fact that they were here when he was here in 1917, for me that has a personal story, and I think, gee, did my great-grandfather sit under the shade of that tree in 1917? And today I'm one of the caretakers of those trees. So it means a lot for me personally to value the heritage of these trees, not only for me, but for other people, and to know that whenever we plant trees, the roots that they put down are roots for the future, and that may be somebody else's family story too.
The WWU High School Dance Festival is a day-long, intensive workshop for dance students and their teachers from all across the state. Students attend master classes, high school dance teachers attend workshops on teaching technique, and the topper of it all is a PAC main stage performance for the public.
The WWU High School Dance Festival is an outreach program that we started this year to invite high school dancers ages 14 through 18 to come to Western to experience what dance is like on a college campus. They're training all over the state at very, very good studios, and we wanted to invite them to come take a class here at Western from our faculty and get to share some of their work and get to meet other studios from around the state.
It's just a great hobby where you get to express yourself physically. It's like a really great art form where you get to use your whole self to express movement, emotion, or whatnot, whatever a choreographer wants from you basically, or what you want for yourself.
I think it's important that we offer outreach to the dance studios in Washington State. We have resources for their teachers and resources for their students. We also led workshops for the teachers in anatomy and kinesiology and teaching technique, and I think it's a very valuable service that we can provide for the state. I think that if you find that you love to dance and love to move, then you should investigate and explore it as much as you can, even for career options. We have a lot of students here at Western that they come and they're going to be another major, and then they take a dance class and fall in love with the challenge of the physical vocabulary, and they never look back. And they're dancing in cities around the country. So I think it's important to do what you love.
It's a huge part of my life. It's my exercise, my fun, my spare time. It's just kind of really positively impacted me.
A recent collaborative effort involving Western Washington University, the University of Washington, Whatcom Community College, and Bellingham Technical College will allow Whatcom County graduates to enter Western with junior standing and earn bachelor's degrees in computer and information systems security. The program is a result of a $500,000 grant from the National Science Foundation and hopes to increase the number of students throughout our community becoming cybersecurity professionals.
Our adversaries are getting more sophisticated.
There's always threats that are out there that we don't even see.
Hackers broke into U.S. military.
We saw that again with the attack at Sumter.
More internet crimes are created every day.
Systems, power grids, pipelines, healthcare systems.
I think we're going to need backup on this one.
Cybersecurity. Cool.
Cybersecurity is important because everything is connected now, and information that you used to have locked away in a filing cabinet or in your office is now on a computer and is accessible via the internet. So this has become a matter of national defense for the United States and for other countries around the world to guard their information assets.
There are ways, you can control from your phone, your home security, your car, your health applications. All those things are vulnerable to being hacked, and those wireless connections have to be secured.
It's the reason that computer systems are vulnerable is because the software that we run on the computers is vulnerable. It wasn't well written. There's a huge need at the moment for thousands of graduates with this sort of expertise, and there aren't all that many bachelor's programs in the country that are producing graduates with that sort of knowledge.
A lot of what's going on in the cyber world right now is people exploiting vulnerabilities that have been sort of inadvertently created. And so we have essentially a system with the internet that never really was designed with security in mind. And now we are essentially having to go back to fix a lot of the problems that exist because of the way that it was built. There are a lot of people out there that are endeavoring to exploit those security holes for financial gain, and there is not enough people really to combat that problem. So that's why we see an explosion sort of in the industry, and the reason that there are so many jobs that aren't being filled right now. So the cybersecurity program is basically a joint venture between Whatcom and Western, where students go through a 2-year associate's degree at Whatcom in their CIS program, and then continue on once they've graduated from there with that degree to another 2 years at Western, so that they can get through a bachelor's degree in a CISS program.
It's trying to come up with the most efficient way of producing well-qualified graduates. We can utilise the resources at Whatcom Community College to have them prepare the students in the first 2 years, and then we can take the students on from there.
In order to offer this degree, we had to do research on job need, demand, wages, what employers are wanting in an employee in this field. And I would say that students are realizing that probably a bachelor's degree is preferred, particularly if they want to continue into higher level positions in a company. And so it gives them an opportunity to perhaps increase their wage earnings as they learn higher levels.
I would say that one of the big advantages for me in being a student that started at Whatcom and then transitioned to Western was that I have a couple of kids and I'm a single dad, so taking a 16, 17 credit load is pretty tough for me. And going to Whatcom to kind of prepare myself to transition for Western was a much easier step.
Within the United States, there are very few degrees that are like this, that actually take all of these applied credits that can be earned at the community college and allow that to transfer in to the four-year degree. So it really creates a streamlined and efficient pathway for a student.
This field requires a lot of dedication. It's actually a way of life, and that's what I tell people. You have to keep up with all the changing technologies. I have to say that it's incredibly interesting.
I mean, the field is exploding, and so it's really fun to be able to be part of a sort of a national movement. And we seem somehow here in Bellingham, Washington, we seem to be a little hub helping with that effort, and we're really excited to be part of it.
Growing bigger and better each year, Back to Bellingham features more than 100 reunions, tours, educational discussions, athletic events, recreational and entertainment opportunities, and parties with live music on 5 stages. Back to Bellingham brings 7,000 students, alumni, staff, and community members to campus each year to reunite, network, and celebrate Western.
This is our 6th annual Back to Bellingham weekend. It's a neat opportunity for the Western community to get together, students, parents, alumni, community members from Bellingham, prospective students, all to come together and celebrate being a Viking. It's really exciting. We have people coming from 14 states, DC, and 2 provinces. We have a lot of Bellinghamsters who come. 1 in 7 Bellinghamsters is a Western alum. It's very kid-friendly. But in terms of the diversity of people that come, from alumni to parents to students to community members, this is the biggest event on campus of the year. It's an opportunity for people to break away from the regular routine and come back here and remember what makes Western so great. The kickoff starts with Scholars Week. So we have 150 to 200 undergraduate and graduate students, mostly undergraduates, showcase their research that they've done. It's a really great opportunity to showcase really what an undergraduate education at Western can be really about. And Friday we start with planetarium shows and other kinds of exciting things that really showcase what makes Western really great. Today is really the big core day. There's about 100 activities that take place today alone. We've got a student band playing right now. We've got students going down slides that they never thought they were going to be able to do in Red Square. Or kids get to stomp in cornstarch and water. And we have a physics professor who puts liquid nitrogen in a big 50-gallon drum and blows water 50 feet into the air. And that's all academics too. You know, this fun stuff is really what it's all about too, and our students get that opportunity to do that on a regular basis on the campus. So that is something that we wanted to celebrate also. And then of course the lunch on the lawn is very popular because we're feeding people. And then we have the party in the library, which is a fun oxymoron, right? You know, you got folks who get to walk into a place that is a quiet room, in the Harry Potter room that we call it, and get to have some food and beverages. It's put on by Boundary Bay Brewery and Bistro. We really are fortunate with the support that we get from local businesses. There's great music, there's bands everywhere. Back to Bellingham is a showcase of a lot of the things that Western does well. The Western experience is unique. I mean, there's not a lot of places around that provide you with an academic experience like Western provides, with an undergraduate focus, 15,000 students. There's no other school like that here in Washington. And so alumni appreciate that, and they love coming back to Bellingham. That's why we called it Back to Bellingham. You know, they love coming back and seeing the places that they once went, seeing the places where they met their now spouse for the very first time, and really reliving this part of a campus. It's just a really great time to be on campus, and it's a happy day. It really is. Well, that's it for this episode of Western Window.
Be sure to tune in next time as we explore our world at and around Western Washington University.
Western Window is proud to partner with the following student publications. Clipson Magazine is published twice each quarter and includes features, multimedia, and issues that affect lives across the greater Bellingham area. You can find it online at clipsonmagazine.com. The Western Front is the official newspaper of Western Washington University, published by the Student Publications Council and funded by your advertising dollars. The Western Front. Get it first, get it right, at westernfrontonline.net. The Planet is Western Washington University's award-winning quarterly environmental publication and the only undergraduate environmental magazine in the United States. Explore The Planet online at planet.wwu.edu.